This week on today's Homeowner, we're building an addition to a home in a beautiful waterfront location. But the weather here isn't always beautiful, so it'll have to stand up against the wind without breaking the bank. This week we're starting a new project where we're building a fantastic sunroom on the back of this house, which is going to be really pretty cool because it has a beautiful view of the water. Now the addition we're building will take care of most of the problems that the homeowners have, but of course, like most remodeling projects, after they started exploring all of the different ways they can improve their home, well, let's just say the project got a little bigger, and how that process is handled is just as important as the initial goal. What's really motivating you to add a little extra space on this place?
Well, there were a couple of factors, Danny. The most pressing one was that this house is built backwards. The front of it faces the road, whereas when you live on water, typically the front is the water. And so we said, well, let's make this look like the front of a house.
Right, and you know, that happens so often, and it's kind of funny, houses that were built many years ago, and I guess, how old is the house? What, 30
About
years?
25 years
About
old.
25 years old.
I've been here 21.
And a lot of times, you know, people, of course, you're buying the property like this because of the view.
Yeah.
And then they put little bitty windows, or like you say, they actually put the facade that's attractive on the backside, as it's considered and everything. So,
That's exactly
so that'll certainly adjust that with having the large sunroom out
It's
here
gonna be beautiful.
looking out. Now the upper area, that probably was like an old porch of some kind.
It was a porch. It was not closed in at all. So we closed it in to put a sun porch out there and a couple of bunk beds.
Yeah, or a little sleeping
Over the
porch.
years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have done some remodeling before. You know, it's not a magical process, but you've already kind of been through the hardest part of it and making the decisions, going through the plans, and of course all of the engineering that's required now with plans. So it won't be long before some work will be going on here.
Beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful.
And we really appreciate your patience in dealing with us, because I'm sure, hopefully like most folks, you start with one idea and it gets real big, real fast.
Oh yeah.
And you have to kind of reel it back in a little bit, and we've done that.
It's painful, but still worthwhile on that.
Well, and you have comfort that 6 months later you're not going to be going, boy, I sure wish we had thought of this or done
we thought of it all.
Well, I know the guys will be starting within the next few days, and we'll make some great progress if we get some decent weather.
Yes.
The plan for Al and Linda's project calls for an 8-foot addition across the whole ground floor to bring it out flush with the overhanging second floor. Windows and glass doors will maximize the view and open onto a large patio, much of which will be covered by a new gable roof, adding shelter from the sun and character to this side of the house. Even with improving weather, it takes more than a few days to get started. Things move more quickly once the dirt starts moving and the foundation comes together in just a few weeks. This addition is being built on what's called a floating slab. The concrete block walls will serve as the forms, but instead of pouring them full of concrete when they're complete, the space is backfilled with packable clay, leaving the last 4 inches for concrete. Clear weather is ideal for pouring a slab, but after several days of rain, the ground is saturated, and that makes getting the concrete truck in place the biggest challenge of the day. If this monster gets stuck, nothing is getting done. After a few tries, it's in place, and concrete starts flowing. It takes about 12 cubic yards of concrete to fill up the addition slab. And as the cells of the blocks fill up, the water from the recent rains gurgles up out of the form. The addition slab has to be completed first so we can transfer the weight of the overhanging section of the house from the temporary braces onto the new back wall of the house, which is framed as soon as the slab is dry. Then we can pour the remaining patio slab.
After a long day of painting, the last thing you want to do is take the time to clean paintbrushes, but it's important to, and here's why. Good paintbrushes cost quite a bit of money, and if you take care of them, they'll last you a lifetime. So after rinsing out the paint, it's important to use a brush comb. That's this little tool that you can get at any paint or hardware store, and you use it to straighten out the bristles. They go all around the brush. The reason you do this is to straighten out the bristles, so if they dry all crossed and twisted up, then they'll never straighten out, and they won't apply the paint very well. Now you can use a wire brush, but the reason I don't like to use a wire brush, if you look closely, no matter how hard you push, the wire bristles never go through all the way through the paintbrush. But with a brush comb, you can see they stick through easily. This way you can get all the bristles straightened out. Okay, so once the bristles are straight like that, you want to wrap it up in some paper. This is just some craft paper, but you can use a grocery sack as well. Fold it over and tape it or put a rubber band around it. If you put the rubber band, make sure to keep it down at the base because you don't want to deform the brushes. Then here's another key tip. At the end of the next day, before you move on to anything else, take the paper off and discard it. Straighten out the bristles one more time with the brush comb, then wrap it up in dry paper. This way you know the bristles are not only straight and clean, but dry.
This week we're building an addition on the rear of a waterfront home to help the owners, Al and Linda, better enjoy their home's great location. That also means it's necessary to make the addition incredibly strong, since it will have to stand up to the tropical storm winds that are very common to this Gulf Coast location. After the foundation is complete, the framing starts, and this is where the details come in that will really help this home stand up against the wind. The wind is a particular concern for the massive covered patio because without walls to block the wind's uplift, it can be exceptionally vulnerable. The foreman on this job is Mark Buffkin.
Perfect right there.
He's the guy who has to sweat out every one of these details so everything works. Well, Mark, after you got the concrete finally poured, man, you guys were able to have some fun with all this wood. There's a bunch of wood in this place.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of wood and there's a lot of metal in this one.
Yeah, I heard you had to bring the metal fabricators out to do a little bit of work.
Oh yeah,
actually a little bit of welding, huh?
Oh yeah, we got steel posts under every heavy load point with 6-inch concrete laths in the bottom. Nice heavy plates at the top.
That's got plates all the way around it.
Oh,
then,
yeah.
Just holding it like a cradle.
Just a saddle, yeah.
And then
right.
you've got all your straps here.
Straps on all them columns. They're bolted down to the slab as well.
Man, somebody nailed hundreds and hundreds of nails with all these straps.
Oh yeah, we got us a new strap gun, and man, that's a lifesaver right there.
Yeah, I mean,
Says,
yeah. Look at this plate, the flat plate right here.
Right.
Now, see, this is tying what your LVL beams, your laminated veneer lumber beams, up to some of the cripples up there.
Yeah, it's actually tied to this beam right here that runs across back to another steel column over here.
Jeez, and that's a lot of ordering, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Oh yeah, man, look, just going through the plans, looking at the numbers, you know, getting the right number, and then, you know, then some of them special ordered, but it all worked out good. We got what we needed.
And then you also had the little saddle hangers and everything that you used to hold down the roof rafters there.
Yeah, these are a little bit more aggravating because you got to put them on before the rafters so you can get all your nails in there. But they actually work out pretty good. They got a lot more hold down pressure than the normal hurricane strap.
And then you got all of these too. So this is mainly just to tie the pack studs
to the headers
into the headers and that kind of thing. And you go with 2x6 walls, I see.
2x6 wall. That's actually going to be a shear wall. We're going to plywood both sides with 1/2-inch plywood. And you see we bolted these to the steel columns, these 2x6s, and that'll tie the shear wall plywood into those steel columns.
Oh, I got you. So those are bolts all the way through then?
They're actually welded to it's lugs welded to the post.
Golly. Well, I mean, we're right here on the water. There's going to be a lot of wind that blows in that can provide that uplift that's
right.
a problem. What about the ceiling then? What are you going to do with the ceiling here?
Well, it's going to get vinyl ceiling, but you see we got straps on every ceiling joist to hold them down, and then we're going to put 1/2-inch plywood on this ceiling for that uplift. You know, we got about a 30-foot span here, and that's a lot of uplift hitting.
Any other columns going in here?
No other columns going there. It's just a wide open.
And then what? Steps down here?
Big set of steps.
Oh, that's pretty inviting.
16 inches wide, and it's going to be nice.
That's pretty good. The roof on top of all of this has to be rugged too. And because the pitch is very slight, the roofer is using an adhesive back ice and water shield as his underlayment. He also glued down each course of shingles with roofing cement. Down below, the sheathing starts going on. Again, the code calls for tons of fasteners to make sure it all stays put. With the roof on and the walls enclosed, the windows can start going in to dry in the addition. While the carpenters are busy getting the interior weather tight, the masons return to put together that cool set of steps Mark was telling us about. This kind of layout requires a massive amount of bricks, so Truett and his crew have their hands full. When the doors and windows are all in, Mark and his crew can move inside to start demolishing the old back wall of the house. A temporary wall of plastic has been put up to keep the dust and dirt out of Al and Linda's family room for a little while longer, but it won't be long before this whole room is opened up. After our Best New Product segment, we'll see how big this new space really is.
Now, if you're planning a renovation or a demolition in your home, one of the things that you need to account for in your budget is how are you going to remove all of the waste material and debris? Well, you used to have to rent a dumpster and then call that company to come and pick it up, and that incurs a lot of fees as well. Until now, take a look at this. This is another option. Waste Management has come out with the Bagster. This is pretty neat. All you do is buy this bag right here, take it home, open it up, and then when you fill it up with all of your debris, call or go online and they will come and pick it up. Now, it depends upon the area in which you live in, but you could pay anywhere from $80 to about $160 for Waste Management to come and pick up your Bagster. Now, on the back, you'll see a list of approved materials that you can put in there and a list of unacceptable items that you can't put in there. This holds about 3,300 pounds worth of material, and it's not that big. It's about 3 cubic yards, and it's an 8 by 4 foot. So you can see it doesn't really take up that much space. But here's another option when you are considering the costs involved in doing any of your renovation projects around your house.
Our addition this week to Al and Linda Tenenfeld's Gulf Coast home has been centered on two things: helping them enjoy their waterfront location to the fullest and making sure that their home is able to stand up against the wind that tropical storm systems often generate in these parts. That means a lot of time and energy has gone into framing the new porch and added living space to make it nearly bulletproof. The whole back wall of the house will act as a shear wall, so the inside of it has to be reinforced with plywood and tons of nails. This has to be done after the electrical and plumbing work is in the walls, but before the drywall is installed. Speaking of drywall, getting rid of their old textured ceilings was one of those minor issues the Tenenfelds wanted to address along the way. So we're scraping off the popcorn finish to give both the old and the new ceilings a smooth finish. The end is finally in sight. So I dropped by to see how Al and Linda were feeling about the progress. At this point, you can kind of get an idea of the space, but does it feel smaller or does it feel larger than you had anticipated?
Oh, it's amazing that it's just the 8 feet that we added on, but with the wall gone, it's just incredibly larger.
And it's one thing when the wall's there to try to envision what, just a few more feet, but when it's actually gone, it is so much bigger.
And it's perfect, a little more, say, sympathetic to the water, that you're, whereas so many people build houses, on water, but they don't have enough windows or they don't really open it up, but you've got it opened up now.
Oh, well, one of the criteria was just put glass everywhere. And I'm sure it probably caused some design problems and probably some construction concerns, but that's what we wanted and that's what you gave us. And it's just amazing.
Especially this is so long too. I can't remember 40-something feet, I believe, the length of that. So the square footage does make a difference in everything. But I tell you, when you live on the water, you got to have one of these.
Oh, yes.
This is no small porch here.
Not at all. But it's 50 foot wide, the total porch. And as I recall, we covered, I think, 26 feet, something like that, by another 16 or 18. So it's a good sized porch. And some of the code worked actually in our favor. We had sort of in our minds envisioned 2 columns on each side, and they came back and said, well, no, for strength you have to add a third, and so, which we actually like a lot better. It kind of changed the look a little.
That does look good, and then using the fiber cement, is gonna, you don't have to worry about the water affecting it and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And then the steps. I mean, heck yeah, I can see people just lined up out here sitting down.
That's the plan.
And this was one of those. We talked earlier about all the iterations we went through, and this was kind of a last minute one, but we would just sit and say, well, what if? We actually made the steps a little wider. It becomes a tremendous amount of additional seating. Looking out over the bay for when we have parties and stuff, or just for us to come and see. And they turned out even beyond, you know, everything we could
great.
imagine.
Yeah, so
It's
much
just-
better than if it was just wood, too.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, oh yeah,
This is
yeah.
here forever.
It's just,
Right, exactly.
I mean, they're beautiful for us.
Well, you're
so.
absolutely set up for a lot of great summer entertainment here.
We're ready.
But before the parties begin, we have a little more to do to get this place ready. Back inside, of course, there's the painting and the little details that'll make this a finished renovation, but there's also some big additions like the granite countertops going into the kitchen. Al and Linda have put most of their budget into the addition and the outdoor space, so they haven't really made a lot of changes to the kitchen. Besides, they like it pretty much the way it was. But they did decide to splurge a little on these countertops. Seems like a pretty good strategy too, because they will certainly be eye-catching. They also like their tile floor, and fortunately we were able to match it so that it could be extended out into the new space without having to remove the old tiles. Outside, the vinyl is all complete, but there's a little touch-up to do on the fiber cement wrapped columns. We're also preparing the windows for those possible future storms by creating plywood shutters for them. Rather than driving nails or screws through the new vinyl, we've installed these fittings into the frames so that the plywood can be put on without any tools whenever needed and taken down again without damaging the vinyl. A recent study showed that up to 25% of the wood used in new construction winds up as waste, which is pretty disturbing. It's like throwing a $100 bill away for every $400 worth of lumber you purchase. Fortunately, more and more contractors are starting to think green, and recycling has become a big part of the building process. Instead of winding up in a dumpster, scrap pieces of lumber are gathered up and used on other jobs. Or contractors will use a service like this one called Grindzilla to grind the scrap lumber down to use for mulch on the job site. Some contractors are even going as far as renting an industrial chipper and grinding down the scraps themselves. The best thing we can do is to support and use these contractors, or ask the tough questions to all the others about why they aren't doing the same things. The addition we've been building this week for Al and Linda Tenenfeld has turned out beautifully. The desire for more entertaining space, both inside and out, led them to take on this major addition. The family room is much more spacious now, with an extra 8 feet added across the whole back of the house, and the deck has been replaced by a great new patio, much of which is covered to provide shelter from the sun and rain. Well, Al, Linda, you guys worked a long time and all the planning and getting everything just right. Did it turn out just like you wanted it?
Better.
Oh, better?
Yeah,
It's always good.
absolutely. You know, it's one thing to sort of try to envision it. You draw the pictures of the, you know, two-dimensional,
Sure.
but when you actually see it, it's just incredible.
Well, plenty of space, though. I mean, the porch is giant. The inside, still a lot of room. That's not always the case when people put all their furniture in, but you guys decorated everything just really tastefully.
You know, we've gotten to the point where I don't know if there's anything we would change. We love the way it turned out.
Well, you can see the things that we talk about here on today's Homeowner, and planning, taking your time, and letting a project evolve can be very successful, just like it is in this case. Hey, let me check out the pier out here.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Next week, we're going outside to look into what makes a great outdoor living space. We'll look at the homes of some people you know and some you don't to set you up with great ideas for your own outdoor room.